Assuming we want to find how each line of business is doing as a percentage of the total amount generated by the business. So we know the total amount generated by the business is 3,645. And we want to find out from this 3,645, what percentage can be accounted for by the clothing line of business or by the shoes or the apparels. We of course have the absolute value for each line of business, but we want to find out as a percentage. To do that, we need to divide the value for each line of business by the total amount. We start with our equal sign. We select the first cell, our division. We select the second cell, we enter, and we get the value. Now we want to change this to percentage, and all we need to do is select the percentage sign. So we have our percentage. Now that we have the value for clothing, so we can say that 38% of the income we generated, which is $3,645, whatever currency, is generated by clothing. Now, can we drag down to get the remaining values? And when we do that, we get this error message. And we will talk about errors later on, but this is telling us that something is wrong. Let's take a look. When we click on let's look at the formula. Now we can either double click right here to see the range, or we can just click in the formula bar. So this is telling us that to get this value, we divided the cell, right, by the cell. Okay. Now let's click on the next cell. When we look at the formula bar, it shows us that it is dividing this value, which is what we want, but it moved down, right? So there's no value right here to be divided by. And what we really want is we want it to divide it by those values. When we move to the next cell, check the formula, we can see that Excel simply moves down again. So we're getting this error because Excel is performing a relative referencing. So it's going to use the first value, right? It's going to divide this value by this value. But then when it moves to the next one, to the next line, it's expecting that there is another value here that it's going to use to divide. And we don't want that. We want this to be fixed. Now, when we look at the formula itself, F8, we know, and let's click on that. We know that the column is F, right? And the row we're dividing by is the 8. So row 8, column F, row 8. So we want row 8 to be fixed. The way to do that is by adding a $sign before the row. So if we add $sign to the row, right, it's going to fix this value. So when Excel moves down, it's gonna move down by choosing the next value within each cell, but now it's only going to divide. It's not going to keep moving down the row. It's going to divide by this fixed, because now we're making it absolute. So let's press enter, and now when we drag down, we get our values. And just to confirm what we have done, if we click on the cell reference for shoes, we can now see that Excel is dividing the value 1,405 by 3,645. So that's fixed now. If we move to the next one, the same thing is happening. What if we want to find the quarterly performance as a percentage of the total amount made by each line of business? So out of the $1,385 made within clothing, what percentage was made in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4? So for that, let's copy. I'm going to copy part of these values. I'm just going to copy that, and let's just paste here. Okay. And let's go ahead and delete the values. So what we want to do is we want B5, and we want to divide that by the total amount. So right here we have equal, and we select our first cell, and we want to divide that by the total amount that was made for that line of business, and that gives us the value. And from here we can change this to percentage. Right, now let's go ahead and drag, and let's see what happens. Now when we drag across, what we notice is that we seem to run into an error. And well, let's take a look at what's happening here. So I'm going to double click this. So we see that for the first cell, this is fine. So we have B5 divided by F5, which is what we want. Let's check the next one. So what we notice is that so now Excel is moving to the right, sort of like a relative, as a relative referencing, but that's not what we want. We really just want to divide by the same value. We don't want it to keep moving, right? So we want to divide 320 by the total amount, Q3 by the total amount, and Q4 by the total amount. So that means that we want the column to be fixed. We don't want it to keep moving, right? So all we need to do is, so now we can go to, just press escape. If we go back to our formula, so what we can do is we want the column to be fixed, right? So that's F. So we add our $sign, and when we press enter, that should be fixed, and now we can extend and we get our values. To fill the remaining line of business, all we need to do is we can drag or just double click, and that's updated for us. And if we want to be more precise with our numbers, we can have this to the, to 2 decimal places, so we get, more values that would add up to, because all of this should add up to 100%. So by including the decimal points, then we should get that.